Once upon a time,
The queens of Muni have been coming here for generations.
there was a long line of queens who lived by their own rules.
Your daughter is... Ribbit. Very strange.
Thank you.
This summer,
I didn't blow up my whole life just so you could give up.
It's too dangerous to do anything but stay.
We need to go to war! Need to sign the peace treaty.
Yelling feels really good right now!
Hip hip hooray!
in a must-see movie event,
Say goodbye to your freedom! You will never be king.
the battle for Muni
Stop! He'll find us! I defeated him once. I can do it again!
is a family affair.
Toffee had killed my mother.
Now we fight.
Star versus the Forces of Evil, The Battle for Muni, a movie event premiering Saturday, July 15th, anywhere you watch Disney XD.
Eclipsa's alive, and I made a deal with her.
Hey, how are you? I'm SliceofOtaku, and we have a lot to talk about when it comes to Star vs. the Forces of Evil. We recently received yet another brand new promo for this movie event, and alongside all the other accumulated promos we received, this just tells us so much. And with that, my thinking is that if the promotional team feels as though they are safe, they can tell us all this information and we're still in for some shockers, then you know that this event is gonna be crazy. But yeah, considering I'm using multiple promos for this video, we have a lot to cover, so let's start it off now. And also, for the most part, I'm gonna be trying to order this in what I believe to be chronological order. Maybe certain things here and there are gonna be, jumped around just to get from point to point. But yeah, I'll try to keep this in sequential order. Alright, so to start us off, we have Star once again using the All-Seeing Eye spell. And just to remind you, this is in fact dark magic that she is utilizing. Star also seems to have one of Marco's hoodies on, as we know Marco has a ton of these red hoodies lying around. So before she left Earth, she took one of its hoodies with her, which is pretty sweet. And it also looks like she's in a carriage containing all of her belongings that she's accumulated on Earth and that she just brought from Muni in general, because we do see a cereal box, so I think that this is from Earth. But yeah, with this All-Seeing Eye spell, Star is watching Marco once again because he tends to be the focus of this spell's usage. But Marco is very bummed out and depressed, which makes sense considering his best friend just left and has unrequited feelings and all this and that. And this is right after the events of the party, which is the end of season 2, as we're able to still see some decorations in the background like balloons and such. At this moment, the only thing that is on Marco's mind is feeling sorry for himself. He's chosen to simply lament in his sorrow and actually pushes away one of the puppies who, of course, is energetic and happy, because that is not the kind of energy that he wants around him. He wants to feel sad because that's what he believes he needs to feel. And his parents are rightfully concerned, especially considering Star was living in their home and suddenly just had to leave. Without warning, she just left, so as much as Marco is in the dark, his parents are also in the dark. And so maybe they might attempt to lift his spirits because he is not as helpless as he believes himself to be, considering he has interdimensional scissors at his disposal. He can easily just go to Muni whenever he wants to. But yeah, more on that a bit later. Moving on, we have Star and her mother Moon pretty much going on a quest together. And I really do appreciate the development Queen Moon has undergone as the series has progressed. Initially, she began as simply a high maintenance mother, but at this point, she is at the forefront of these shenanigans alongside Star, which is very nice to see. The two of them have entered this forest in which a bunch of Ludo's rats are residing, and they actually take some of them down. And I like this because it's sort of capitalizing on the sort of fantasy aesthetic that they've built up. Here, they're taking down what we can consider to be low-level creatures, which is pretty much just like an RPG game. Moving on from here, at some point they reach an area with a bunch of vines, and there is a skeleton with a hat just wound up in it, so you know that this is lethal. And Star just takes the hat, and at the same time she's telling her mother that it's just a little danger, and we know Star to be a rather rambunctious princess. whereas her mother is sort of strict and wants her out of danger at all times. So it's easy to imagine that Moon is currently lecturing Star or just nagging her as to being safe and things like that. And from here, I'm assuming that Star either hears a muffled sound or simply silence from her mother, which is uncharacteristic when she talks back, which causes her to turn around and see that her mother is actually caught up in these vines, which once again are lethal. But once they are out of this predicament, they end up inside of a temple or a shrine. And with them are 3 members of the Magical High Commission who are out of commission. Omni, Romulus, and Hekapu are all essentially in limbo and are pretty much being carried around like balloons. They're tied to strings and just hovering in the air. And so it seems like some sort of magic has been used on them, which is funny because I'm sure that Ludo's signature spell, Levitato, would have worked out perfectly. But anyways, Moon states that the Queens of Muni have been coming to this building for generations. And with a quick glimpse on the inside, you'll notice that it is very Glossaric-esque. And so considering they no longer have the Book of Spells or Glossaric at their disposal, I'm curious what role this place will actually serve. And just as something to think about, if you guys checked out my breakdown of the new intro for Star vs. the Forces of Evil, you'll notice that Glossaric is in 2 places. At one point, he is at the table with Moon and River, and at another point, he is actually with a Toffee-possessed Ludo. So that might be something to consider. But regardless of the actual purpose this place is intended to serve, it seems to me like Queen Moon plans on using this place as a hideout, which is rather typical of royal families to do in times of danger. As the current bearer of the throne and also the heir to the throne, these two are vitally important to the establishment of human society. Get rid of them and everything falls apart. But as we know, this is not how Star operates. She did not come back to Muni to hide and quiver. She plans on settling the score with Toffee, which, depending on how you look at it, can be a testament to how naive and inexperienced she is. But yeah, Moon states that it is too dangerous for them to act, and actually, she has a vending machine of corn chips and just corn snacks in general, which seems to be maybe Glossaric's little refuge. I mean, living off of Snookers doesn't sound so bad, right? Another thing to note is Marco's hoodie. It changes because when they walk in, it is fully intact, but later on in the same building, it is simply just a sleeve. So maybe she ripped it off and that's all she needs now. I'm curious what happened there. But yeah, as I was saying before, Star is about the business. She's not just gonna sit around and do nothing. She's ready to fight, and her wand begins to glow green, which we know is a bad sign. But as she is about to cast her magic or just do whatever she planned on doing, Moon drops a bombshell. She says that Toffee killed her mother, which is heavy and should immediately make you flash back to Moon's Queen painting. Because at this time, Toffee had shoulder pads with skulls on them, and these skulls have the cheek markings of Mewni royalty, which just catapults Toffee's villain levels and just overall just savage levels to new heights. That is crazy. Like initially I was like, okay, it's just a prop, it's just, you know, to look menacing, but no, these are actual skulls of Mewni royalty. Star's lineage has been defiled and they're just on this man's shoulders. That's wild. And I mean, this little tidbit alone gives us so much deposition into the character of Moon. Her overprotective, overbearing nature makes sense because she doesn't want to lose her daughter like she lost her mother. She wants to keep her away from danger at all costs because she just can't afford to lose someone again, someone dear to her, someone she is related to and just cares so much about. But it doesn't stop there. We receive a flashback of Queen Moon in her youth. And at this time, she opened up the Book of Spells onto Eclipsa's chapter. as we can tell from the skull that, locks it away. And Moon actually lets us know that she made a deal with Queen Eclipsa, which already just sounds like a terrible mistake, something you do not want to do. You don't want to mess with the Queen of Darkness. And we are actually able to hear a young Moon recite the mantra required to make this pact with Eclipsa.
I call the darkness unto me, from deepest depths of earth and sea. To blackest night I pledge my soul and crush my heart, to summon forth a deathly power, to see my hated foe devoured.
Dear Lord, is that not the definition of evil? She sacrifices her soul and her heart in order to crush her most hated foe, who happens to be Toffee, apparently for killing her mother. And by contracting this spell, she shakes essentially the hand of evil itself, and this darkness wraps around her in just such a beautifully executed, terribly disgusting way. I mean, this alone just makes me shake with anticipation. I cannot wait to see this scene in its full glory. The darkness begins to ooze over Moon's wand, which we may now assume gave her access to the darkest spell, which she used on Toffee, thus severing his finger. And considering she devoted to crush her heart, I'm curious why this spell did not just destroy Toffee and she only got his finger. Did she have second thoughts? Did she show mercy? Is that why? And we do have Toffee say,
Have you learned nothing?
Which could be a line from any point in this special, but if it is at this point, then that would show that Moon had second thoughts and just showed weakness, which she totally should not have. And a quick tidbit, we actually do get a glimpse of Toffee in the past looking like a bad man. And like I said, all those skulls, he has the skull of Queen Moon's mother and possibly Eclipsa. Now, I know we saw Eclipsa in that crystal or whatever, but I am not going to underestimate the Queen of Darkness. We don't know what she's actually capable of, and Moon does state that she made a deal with Eclipsa. She didn't deal with Eclipsa's spells or anything like that. No, she dealed with Eclipsa, which is very particular wording. So to this day, Eclipsa is still a pretty viable threat. And while we're on the subject of this contract, I have to point out how in each of these promos we see Star's wand undergoing a similar change. We see this black sludge, this oozing with darkness overcoat Star's wand as well. And so although I'm hoping that Star is not doing the same thing that her mother did, it's pretty much in her character to do so anyways. And I mean, it would be very Disney-esque if the sacrifice that Queen Moon made would be to the detriment of her daughter and sort of curse her. But now let's check out our other flashback-based content. Here we have Mina Loveberry in her prime. Remember, Star once heralded Mina as the greatest Mumin warrior to ever live, so to see her in her prime is pretty cool. And on the topic of war, she is rather overzealous. She wants a declaration of war right now. But Hekapu is against this. She wants them to sign a peace treaty. And I claim this to be a flashback for various reasons. Firstly, Romulus has both of his crystal nipples. If this were current day, he would only have one and the other would have band-aids over it. Secondly, Romulus and Hekapu are awake. I mean, if they just suddenly came out of limbo, that would kind of be weird. It just wouldn't exactly make sense. And lastly, although Mina went back to Mewni, she no longer has this status that we see displayed in this clip. She has this uniform on that seems rather formal and gives off the impression of a high-ranking official. But here she is demanding this of a character we have never seen before, a new character who has sort of like a tree bark crown on, and to me, this character sort of looks like Baby. And if the High Commission needs his stamp of approval, I'm curious what his position actually is and why his hands are cuffed. But yeah, that's pretty much it for our whole flashback segment. Fast forwarding back to where Moon and Star are stationed inside of this building, there is now this strange dark green stuff all over the place, and I would say that this is the darkness that was on their wands, but I'm not so sure. This kind of looks a little different and isn't exactly of the same caliber in terms of presence. But with that being said, it doesn't seem like they can stay in this place any longer and they have to relocate. But where to go? Well, Star does know Buff Frog. And if they are in fact resorting to Buff Frog as their new hideout, then that would mean that Star is complying. I think that she would definitely comply after hearing what Toffee did to Moon's mother. But yeah, we see a frog, and does this mean that the tadpoles are fully grown up? Are the tadpoles now frogs? I mean, is that it? Are they just normal frogs? I mean, Star is mesmerized by this, but it's kind of lackluster to me. I thought they were gonna be pretty cool, like Buff Frog. I'm really hoping that this isn't the end of their development and that this is just, you know, like a kid form or whatever, because inside of Buff Frog's house, we do see that there is a door, which seems to be like the kids' room. It has like drawings on the door and all of that stuff. So maybe they still are growing. But Buff Frog does tell Queen Moon that Star is very strange, which she already knows very well. But moving on, let's talk about Ludo. Ludo has no recollection of his body being possessed, and so he wakes up with a hand that is not his own, which he does not want. But I wonder if he's talking to himself or someone is actually there that he's communicating with, because his spider and his bird are no longer there, so maybe he's just talking to some rats. But we do get to see him test out some of his new magical abilities against the spellbook, and the spellbook essentially redirects his attack tenfold, which makes sense for something this important. They don't want it to be easily destroyed, considering it is one of the butterfly family's most precious heirlooms, being passed down from generation to generation, similar to how the wand is, meaning it has to withstand the test of time. And when we move on to the Mewni Kingdom, we can see that River is having a great time. I think that he's doing this because Moon is away, and so her rules are not exactly in place, and we know that River is a partier. And to be honest, I'm pretty surprised that the citizens of Muni are down to have this much fun with him, because at the moment it seemed like the song that Rubariat made about the royal family really upset the citizens of Muni, but I guess they don't hold on to their anger all that long. And really, look who's right there, Rubariat again. Which is once again weird because Rubariat was saying how they might kill him if he doesn't make the song, but he made the song and it was not to their liking, so why is he still alive? But at some point after this, Marco stops feeling sorry for himself and decides to go to Muni, and when he goes there, Star is of course not at the castle because she's off doing her quest with her mother, but River is there, and so they actually get some time to sort of bond together or whatever. And in the next shot, River and Marco both have on loincloths. And River in his hand has a pretty interesting weapon. And behind him are the citizens of Muni who, just like him, are rather upset. And it seems like they're confronting Ludo and his army. Among these troops are the bird and the spider, so Ludo must have gone to the Earth dimension to pick them up. And Ludo's initial expression is pretty funny. He's saying hello to everybody and then immediately just rallies his troops to go and face them. And at some point when confronted by Star and Moon, Ludo goes into possession mode. And what's going on there, I don't really know, but Ludo manages to win the day. He has the crown on, his banner is hanging, and he's just the king now. Well, according to River, not exactly. But hey, he's the one with the crown now. But it seems like Marco was able to escape to safety alongside Rubariat and two new characters. And Marco is definitely not being a sad sack anymore. He is about the business. He's putting on face paint and ready to go. And in the final scenes that we have the foot of a huge creature. I don't know what's up with that, but looks cool. Then we have Star's wand once again glowing green, and also Toffee's hand, which is on Ludo's body, looks pretty weird and starts to glow as well. And lastly, we have a really quick shot of Ludo being in front of a sort of explosion. This almost seems like a dark summoning of some sort. What's gonna come up? Really, your guess is as good as mine. But whatever it turns out to be, this may very well be the climax of this entire movie event. And man, was this a lot to talk about. I mean, I'm gonna be editing forever on this video. But like I said at the beginning, if they're able to give us this much in promos, I cannot even begin to fathom what they're gonna present us with the full product. It's gonna be incredible. And you have to remind yourself that this is just a promo for this movie event. This is only the beginning of season 3. There is so much more that is to come after this. I mean, for other shows, this could be an entire season's worth of content, but this is just the opener. This is just the beginning of the content we're gonna receive in Star vs. the Forces of Evil Season 3. So if you have friends who are not yet on the whole Star vs. the Forces of Evil hype train, you better bring them aboard, because this show is about to take off to new heights we have never seen before. But yeah guys, that is everything I have to say regarding these promos. I know that a ton of you have been hitting me up telling me that I have to cover this, that I have to cover that, but here you go. Hopefully you are satisfied. And also, let me know any thoughts you may have regarding these promos and what you expect for Season 3 of Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.